G'day and welcome to Cool Cars here on GiltrapTV. Coming up in this episode, we go electric. We've got Formula E. We drive New Zealand's first Volvo XC40 Recharge, the McLaren Artura plug-in hybrid, how the new Porsche GT3 could also soon be carbon neutral. Gosh, they were the first two big mega launches, weren't they, of 2021, the Artura and GT3 England versus Germany. Like a great sporting clash. And speaking of sporting clashes, what a weekend we've got coming up. We've got supercars, super rugby, super boxing clash, there's cricket, and of course Formula E. Heaps of Kiwi drivers. We've got Mitch Evans, Nick Cassidy, and the New Zealand race Tom Blomqvist. It is going to be a great event too. A double header under lights in Diriyah, and Mitch Evans teamed up with Sam Bird. Now Mitch had his best season last year. Sam Bird is a Formula E rock star.
All eyes are on Jaguar Racing, one of the best driver lineups on the grid. All electric racing like you've never seen it before. All 5 lights are on for the most competitive grid in the world. And we go green at night in Saudi Arabia.
And you can find out more about this weekend's racing. By the way, both races kick off at 1 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, but it's all at 66magazine.co.nz. Hey, a huge week for McLaren. Yes, they were out on the track at Bruce McLaren Motorsport Park, and you can bet, along with talk of lap times, the new Artura was a hot topic of conversation. This really is a groundbreaking car, not just for McLaren, but as a supercar. You see, until now, the hybrid powertrains are the domain of the hypercars, like the McLaren P1, which the plug-in hybrid Artura, it's fair to say, does channel, the baby P1 if you like. There's a new V6 engine combined with electric power to generate a stunning 671 brake horsepower. The result is a great looking car that McLaren promise will be as much fun as a 600 LT and at the same time deliver 30 kilometres of emissions-free EV range. No wonder McLaren's new F1 driver Daniel Ricciardo loved his drive.
Mate, the way the E-motor comes in, ooh, how could you get bored of this? Coming in hot. Ooh. This is the bit I really love. EV mode. How awesome is that? Complete silence.
Now, our good mate, Mr. JWW, didn't get to drive like Daniel Ricciardo, but he did get a very close look at the new Artura.
The significance of this car, when I say all new, I mean entirely from the ground up, chassis, engine, hybrid and all. There's so much to talk about. There's so much. What I found interesting, and it just sort of really sets context, just to how much this platform has changed versus the 570. And
you can see the link to that full video. In fact, all our videos on giltrap.com. There's also a link on this week's Cool Cars. But you'll also find a 2014 McLaren 650S Spider in pearlescent white. A Giltrap Volkswagen, who now have the new Golf 8 ready for test drive, have this T-Roc with 4Motion, and it's an R-Line to boot as well. You won't miss that colour, will you? A Cool Cars special from Aston Martin Auckland, this hyper red V8 Vantage. And at Giltrap Porsche, a 2020 Carrera 2S. This is the X demonstrator, so low Ks and a great Cool Cars price. Now we're going to check out the other big launch, which is from Porsche in just a moment. First though, we're going to stick with the electric theme, the plug-in, because the very first XC40 Recharge from Volvo has arrived in New Zealand and was at Archibald and Shorter. And of course, we were first in line to grab the keys. Now this is a confident step for Volvo, who plan to be all electric by 2030. Some details: a 3-cylinder turbo and electric motor. They combine to deliver 192 kilowatts and weight for 425 newtons. That's a lot of torque, more than me even. So plenty of go, combined with up to 45 kilometres of EV range and an official figure of 2.5 litres per 100. That's about 140 miles per gallon in the old school. Well, the first thing I've done is selected pure mode, EV Volvo call it. So I'm currently driving on the motorway, 80 k's an hour, pure electric mode. And I say it's about 20 years since I actually drove my first hybrid, and the thing that frustrated me the most back then was that I could never drive on just battery power. It always was there just to help the internal combustion engine. And that sort of seemed frustrating, especially around town when you knew that petrol motor is at its most inefficient. Now, I've done some research as well, you'd be pleased to know, and in New Zealand the average daily distance driven is around 30 kilometres. So based on the, I'm hoping, pessimistic range of 45 kilometres, in theory, on any average day, this could be driven like a pure EV. You'd never need to use the internal combustion engine. And you'll of course find links to that video on this week's Cool Cars or at GiltrapTV.com. Right, big news from Porsche this week. They're working on an E Fuel that they say will make internal combustion engines as clean as an EV. Yes, it's made from hydrogen and CO2. Now, it significantly lowers greenhouse gas emissions, and they say this e-fuel will be ready for testing by 2022 and will be used in the new 911 GT3 race car. Which conveniently brings us to the other big news from Porsche, the new GT3.
It's the essence of Porsche in a single car. This is the most extreme, most exciting GT3 that we have ever developed.
Let's talk numbers. The best ever is the 17 seconds quicker it was around the Nürburgring than the current GT3. Now look, you'll spot the new rear spoiler, which improves rear downforce by 50%, and the total downforce is 150% up on the last car. Underneath, there are sweeping suspension improvements, all inspired by the race car, and a naturally aspirated flat six with a screaming 9,000 rev per minute redline and over 500 horsepower. In other words, the perfect road racer made even better. And on that note, that's us for this episode of Cool Cars. Enjoy this week's Cool Cars. Enjoy the fantastic sporting weekend. Bye for now.